smartest guys around are about to break it down like they've won the game a million times.
Well, actually, they didn't really win the game at all.
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all. Stephen without it down. Got the game all figured out. They know it all.
Yeah, that's right. Survivor Know-It-Alls back
Whoa.
here. It's
Whoa.
auction week, and
Wow.
we are back. Two guys in sweaters talking about Survivor. Here we are back with my great friend to break it all down, the knowingest know-it-all. It's Stephen Fishbach. Stephen, how are you?
I'm great, Rob. It was so fun to see the video of you at the big Survivor viewing party introducing Jeff.
Yeah.
No tense moments, no like, do you even like me at all? That's what I was watching for. Honestly, I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of snark when he was like, it's all love, and he was like, really, Rob?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
I wanted more. I wanted more hostility.
Yeah, maybe like if it wasn't like in front of an audience, maybe hard to look, I appreciate everything, and so like who knows what anybody's real feelings are, but nice to see Jeff and everybody in person. And it was a really cool event that they had on Tuesday night up at your old stomping grounds, Paramount Mountain.
1515. It was my the building I used to work in. Where did they end that? Where was the event ultimately?
That's where it was.
Where in the building?
Oh, I don't know what floor we were on.
You don't even know what floor.
I wasn't paying. They usher. I got to Paramount headquarters.
I was saying 31st floor. That's where I used to work.
Okay, yeah. I got to the Paramount headquarters, and they brought me in an elevator with a bunch of people. I was not the one who pushed the button, and then I got out.
Blindfolded, like on a Survivor.
I was not blindfolded, but I wasn't paying close attention to. I didn't know there was a quiz. I wasn't paying close attention to what floor I was on in the building.
Yeah.
It seemed rather high up. But I did the first time we ever did the or maybe it was the second time we did the live show. The one that we did at Gotham upstairs, I went to your work and we watched the episode together back when you used to get DVDs.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. That's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that. That was a fun day. Yeah.
And what a tie-in to this week where that very season was Survivor Worlds Apart.
Yeah. Last time they held an auction.
The last time they had the auction.
Yeah. And this is such an upgrade over that. I mean, the big moment was. Right, didn't like Mike hold out for the advantage, and
what had happened there was Mike was holding out for with the advantage to like with a couple other people. I think Dan and Carolyn also, they were all like saving their money for the auction. Shireen says, and Jeff's like, I got letters for everybody, and Shireen's like, hey, if somebody just buys the letters for $20, then we'll all get our letters for $20. And then like, okay, everybody puts their $20 in, and then Mike went last, and then like, psych, I'm not going to put my $20 in, so I'll have the most money for the advantage. And everybody's like, what, you son of a gun, how dare you? And then it was a whole thing. And then everybody was like officially out on Mike.
And then that killed the auction forever. It was such a bad auction. But what a big.
It was actually a rather exciting moment. One of the biggest, like most dramatic things that ever happened at the auction, but they said, no, that's it.
It was like a very petulant moment, though. Exciting. And then what's fun about the auction is it's like joyful and silly. Mm-hmm. We're all like making faces at the fish eyes. We're all like, oh, don't pick the covered item. And then, and Jeff, by the way, I feel like this was the best Jeff we've seen. I mean, he was having so much fun this episode.
Yeah. This was really, I think that Jeff, maybe the quitters did something to him.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to feel like that Jeff is in his villains era now.
Yeah. Tell me.
Okay. Well, all right. You have like, Jeff is like pulling out knives and like saying like, hey, pop quiz hot shot. Who wants rice? Make an answer now.
It was such a great moment. That was like my favorite moment of the season so far. It was so dramatic, no hesitation. He's just been like playing it in his head over and over again. And when Couture was hesitating, and everyone at home, at least me at home, and I just assume that everybody else feels the way I feel. And if you don't, you're wrong. But anyway, everyone at home is waiting to like, oh my gosh, here we go, another freaking negotiation. Oh, is it 5 or is it 4? Since when? And instead, he just grabs the knife, boom, into the bag.
Yeah. And he has some fun background about that on the On Fire podcast this week about how that came to be. But also, did you happen to see, Jeff, he's in New York. He was on with Kelly and Mark, I believe it's called now, and talked a little bit about the quitters and talked about how from now on, that the quitters, he's not gonna snuff their torches anymore. I think that also now
he's gonna urinate on them. He's gonna like pee on their torch. Is that right?
That's how he's gonna extinguish them.
Yeah.
Yes. No. He said that he's going to like take them and they don't get to have their torch snuffed anymore. I think that Jeff is like really embracing back to. I think that at once upon a time, I don't know if it was Nicole that used to say of Jerky Jeff, but I think it's coming back.
Yeah, much more. I mean, and then when Drew at the auction went in for like, oh, gonna negotiate a little bit, he's like, no. Yeah,
I think people like that. I think that maybe like that over the course of, and this is my like, amateur psychologist, I think over the course of COVID and like when, after season 40, I do think that there was probably like a lot of like re-examination of Survivor from first time watchers, people like myself who had nothing else to do but talk about old Survivor. And I think that there were a lot of things that came up and probably like some meditation on, Jeff's role in the whole thing. And I think he might have came through it on the other side, maybe changed from COVID a little bit of like, hey, I'm here to be, a kinder, gentler Jeff.
Yeah.
And we had that for a little bit. We saw that probably most notably in season 41 when he's like talking to the camera and, super supportive the whole way through. But now, maybe I think a little bit of a correction.
Yeah. Necessary. I mean, he's always been, the inspirational guy, right? Like his TV show, Live Like You're Dying, or maybe like they changed it to like Live for the Moment, but I think the initial title is like Live Like You're Dying or something.
Yeah.
It's always been about embracing the big story and but there's a darkness to him, and we want to channel him to channel that darkness.
Yeah. So look, we love to see it. I think it's fun. Anyway. So yeah, I think that there is a little bit of like the villain Jeff, I think, starting to manifest here in the mid-40s.
Yeah. Who's the hero host? If they had to host hero versus villain, is it Phil Keegan? Is he on the hero tribe?
Phil, I think, is especially tough as nails. Phil, very heroic.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would love to see that showdown.
All right. Well, Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm well. I'm okay. I got my hair cut a week or two ago, and let me tell you, I always part my hair to the left. Most people who part their hair to the right. I've talked about this a lot with John Cochran. He also is a left parter, and my barber at the end of the session, haircut, whatever you call it, she was like, I noted to her like, hey, just FYI, my hair parts to the left, and she said, oh, well, I parted it to the right because that's the way your hair naturally grows. Yeah, right. You're telling me now, right at the end of the haircut, when it's too late, and because your recession will get worse if you part it, if you always part it the same way. So she really
Jerome Powell?
I don't really put in the the emotional manipulation here, but it's been very discombobulated, consistently trying to part my hair the wrong way. So
yeah, you went to a new person.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, what happened to the old person?
She was not available to book at that time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you look great.
Thank you. I feel very like right is left for me, and I'm very upset. Kelly, my second winner pick of the season, has been voted out.
I think you might have really put the kiss of death on Kelly last week. That you came out so hard for Kelly last week, not just in terms of like what she was doing, but the winner edit she was receiving.
Did I say winner edit? I don't think I said winner edit. I don't want anyone. If I did, I don't want to hear about it.
you really you put yourself out there and about Kelly from last week. I'm trying to see if I could bring up any of the tweets from last
No,
week's episode.
I'm purging my Twitter timeline about.
Oh, you delete them now?
Well, now I do. I mean, my gosh, you know, I mean, it's going to be so embarrassing for me in a couple of weeks. Oh, look at this tweet about Kelly winning, and there's no way Emily's going to win, and then Emily wins. Now, and this is what I love about this season. I have no idea who's going to win. Like Emily winning is a very good possibility, right? I mean, certainly Jake, D, Emily, Drew, Austin, but like I could see Bruce winning. I mean, I truly could see like any of these. It's a long shot, but I could see basically any of these contestants winning at this point, and it's really fun.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun cast and a fun season so far. So looking forward to digging into it a little bit more here with you. All right, let's pick things up with Kelly, and of course, you were so impressed with her coming out of last week. You felt like that she was doing such a good job of controlling the chaos and what you had cited was that she was doing so good at being able to bring together all these disparate parties to be able to stick together for the vote, but ultimately that no longer seemed like that was a viable way to go.
Well, what's wild is you have these 5, I mean, and so it did seem like there was some just really unlucky circumstances here, right? Where on the one hand you have, Bruce, who is everybody's target, and then he's suddenly immune, and which is just bad luck, right? And then at the same time, her one ally, who she completely puts herself on the line for last week, to keep in the game, is not only immune, but he doesn't have a vote. So, then your other ally is the presumed target and is freaking out and wants to play his shot in the dark. So now he doesn't have a vote. And so, if you're Kelly, like, what do you do in this scenario? Like, she has no leverage. And I do think fundamentally, there seemed like, well, for that, the Bello people kind of had this idea, we're playing like a mixed game, and the tribal lines are gone, and maybe there's a women's alliance, or maybe this group is getting together just to vote out Jake for this round, or because we all want Bruce gone, and now it'll be Jake, even though it wasn't Bruce. And but the Bello group just voted tribe cohesively with Emily sort of as the fifth Bello. And so I think, good on Bello for kind of maintaining old school discipline. Sorry, Reba, the Reba group. Good on Reba for maintaining old school discipline. And bad on Bello for like getting, gulled into thinking that there was this other thing happening. But that said, like, if you look at this Reba group, and maybe that's because they've done a very good job of purging their irrational members. They got rid of Sifu. They got rid of, well, he was the craziest, right? But they got rid of Sifu. But like, they're all like kind of gamers, and then the Bello group, they all hate each other. So it's like the Bello group, just like, there's like, if you're someone like Kelly and your alliance literally all hates each other, what do you do in that scenario? I mean, Boston Rob pulled it off, but she's not Boston.
Where are you talking about Redemption Island, Rob?
Yeah, right. Where you had like this group of people.
Did they hate each other? I mean, I feel like that there was.
Well, they all hated Philip.
They all like were kind of like united against Philip, but then also I think that they probably, for the most part, all liked each other in terms of that group. So a lot to respond to from what you were getting into as sort of like a nice setup for this conversation. I had the chance to talk to Kelly and talk to her about some of these things. And from her perspective, what she had said in the exit press was, I think that she maybe underestimated how tight Reba was as a group, because that in the new era and in a 26-day game, the tribes that you start with, there has not been as much allegiance to the tribes that you started with, especially considering in this season that we had a swap on day 6, day 7. So the Reba people started together. We're only together for, so many days before then we saw that Austin and Drew go one place, and Julie and Dee go to stay back at original Reba. So I think that she felt like that the Reba 4 was not quite as tight as they have turned out to be.
Right. And I think that, again, like, that's all credit to Reba, right? I mean, that's all credit to Reba for maintaining that alliance, maintaining that cohesion, and, pulling off this blindside. I mean, the way that we were sort of like told the blindside, right, was that Drew was a little bit worried about this potential for Jake having an idol, Jake getting Bruce's idol, Jake, even playing his shot in the dark. I'm sure they're all a little gun shy from that because of Caleb. And then and Drew and presumably with the rest of the videos kind of went back and forth. Like maybe we do just get rid of Jake. He's this erratic player, but Kelly is this, very smart player. She's kind of controlling things over there. And maybe that was, her fault for last. I mean, it's so tricky, right? Like you make a big play last week, you exert your influence, you control the game, and then you make yourself a big target. And that's the challenge of New Era Survivor. It's like you almost like can't do anything influential unless you've got like a lock solid alliance behind you. And she really did seem to kind of like pull some strings last week, and it seemed like great play. I thought it was very subtle play, but apparently it wasn't subtle enough.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the Bruce of it all here with Kelly, where Jeff said something interesting on his podcast, that he said that, where Kelly herself referenced Bruce often as a ball and chain.
Yeah.
And that Bruce is still in the game. Kelly isn't.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that as a player, like if you are attached to somebody like a Bruce, like do you need to cut anchor quicker?
Well, that's what I was saying vis-a-vis Boston Rob. I mean, what Boston Rob was able to do, right, is he had Phillip and everyone hated Phillip, and that was just this like focus of people's attention. So as long as he could keep Phillip in the game, people were always like wanting to vote out Phillip. I mean, I don't think there was ever a point where Phillip was immune, and then people were like, wait a second, what about Rob? I could be misremembering. And so there's always that danger. But for other players who have tried this, it just doesn't pan out because it's so hard, right?
Mm-hmm. That
abrasive person ends up being like, you have to like manage so much. You have to be such like a mastermind at the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, Rob obviously had a lot of other benefits in that season in terms of like just his built up celebrity, the experience of playing for his fourth time against, these people who hadn't played ever before. And I think the answer is yes. For a player who's not Boston Rob, I think you want to, you got to separate yourself from that person, because at some point, and now especially when there's such a premium on keeping those unlikable people, no offense to the unlikable people to the end, where you want those people. Everyone now wants to keep those people in the game. So naturally, and I think you were saying this about someone. Oh, I think maybe we were talking about this a little bit. I don't remember who we were talking about it with, but anyway, you naturally want to. Sorry, I told you this this new part is really messing up my you naturally want to you become the target because the people are actually somewhat inclined to keep the unlikable person, especially the later you go into the game. They're like, why would we vote out Bruce now? He's not going to get any votes.
Well, it's interesting, Bruce, he wins immunity tonight or in this episode, and then still has an idol. And I'm starting to think that maybe like that there's going to be more like inherent immunity. We kind of saw this with Xander in Survivor 41, where it seemed like when we talked to the players, like Xander has an idol. Why isn't anybody doing anything about Xander? And I think it was Danny in that season was like, yeah, but everybody knew like Xander wasn't gonna win. So we weren't that worried about him. Yeah. And I wonder if things will change where like, do votes ever start to come on Bruce? Like it seemed like if Bruce was vulnerable and didn't have an idol, like there would have been a plan to take out Bruce. But I just wonder if Bruce might be maybe even for Reba, one of the lower priorities. Now, that being said, Drew has talked about like Drew seems to have a target on Bruce's back and has like been like actually like quite I don't want to say vicious, but like he has been like very deliberate talking about how he really wants Bruce out of the game. So I guess we will see. But if nobody from Bello really wants Bruce around, I almost feel like that Bruce is one of the least likely targets moving forward.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I do think, maybe there does seem to be this sort of like aura of like, oh, Bruce, if he makes it far, he's a threat. And maybe they do perceive him that way out there.
Still, I don't know.
But I wonder if some of, especially Drew's focus on Bruce was because he was an easy consensus target, where when the numbers were close, and they're still somewhat close between the Bellows and the Rebas, you could focus all the attention on Bruce because the Bellows wanted him gone too. Whereas now, if you've got this Reba block that is going to be able to maybe knock out some of these Bellows, there's less urgency to vote out Bruce because when Drew was under the number, when there was even numbers at the split tribal, the double tribal, focus on Bruce. Now when we all come back together, it's 5-5, focus on Bruce. Just take out that consensus Bellow target. And I love that moment with Drew and Katurah by the well, when Drew is saying to her, as a sign of trust, I'm willing to follow your lead, fully knowing that what she's going to say is what he wants to happen. But he positions it as her getting her way and him establishing trust. I thought that was so elegant.
What do you make of Drew? I feel like that we haven't talked about him too much.
Yeah. I mean, I love Drew. He's a great character. He's a great narrator. I think he does a really good job of describing the situations, describing the strategy. He's a little frazzled sometimes, which I both like and, connect with, but he also has really smart ideas. And I think is for the most part, good at selling them. I think he's good at kind of, playing up that sort of I'm the awkward scarecrow in the back. And, and then when it's time for him to assert himself strategically, he does so in a very thoughtful, respectful, deliberate way.
Yeah, I think he's been very interesting to have on the show. And, we've really gotten to hear a lot of what he thinks about things and how he operates. And it's been definitely interesting. I think a lot of us were sleeping on him to start. I think he went 18 out of 18 in the podcaster draft.
Why? What was the stigma?
I think they felt okay, well, he is skinny and lanky and has glasses. And
nerds hate the nerds. It's all.
Wait, are you calling the podcasters nerds?
No, it was an unrelated comment. That was a complete tangent and aside. Sorry about that. I don't know what I was. Yeah.
Well, the last two picks were either Brando or Drew.
Wow.
And Drew, he's looking really good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, you could easily see Drew winning. You could see Emily winning. I mean, who do you think is going to win, Rob? I know not a winner's edit thing, but just
well,
the Rob
okay.
pick.
If you want to do a draft right now of back and forth of who I mean, I feel like that for me, I think that the first pick is either I think it has to be one of three Reba. I think you could go D, Drew, or Austin.
Yeah, I think I would take D in that group.
Yeah, D would be very good. I mean, I think that I certainly could see it. I think I feel like that it's hard to quibble with Austin with two idols, but I would say that and this is I'll say a little bit more edit based, that Drew has just gotten so much airtime. I think I would go Drew over Austin.
Yeah. So the obvious next choice is Austin. Emily, I think also I was sort of out on her just for like life reasons. I thought the very young stock picker she's not actually very young. No offense. I mean, she's 28. I for some reason she read to me as early 20s, and we've certainly seen a lot of people that age win. I think Emily is a good pick to win. I don't think Jake is out too. I'm actually going to take Emily, even though I said that she was, I previously tweeted that I did not think she would win. She's going to be my second pick.
Okay. And then I'll take Austin.
I'm going Jake.
Oh, okay. So
Jake over Bruce, Katurah, or Kendra. Jake. Oh, and over Julie.
And Julie. Yeah. So that's just interesting. And you actually talked about the people that you thought could win. You actually led with Jake earlier in our conversation. I'm interested to see from you, what do you feel like is the path for Jake? Because he obviously survives last night's episode, and I love Jake as a character, but I kind of feel like he's dead man walking right now.
Well, I think that, and that can benefit him, right? I mean, sometimes that helps to be. I mean, I've said that in the past and I've been proven wrong, but sometimes that helps. And maybe Bruce loses one, loses and they take him out. Or is next week, do we know if it's just a normal tribal council?
It's not a normal tribal council. In the preview, they said that 3 people are going to lose their votes at the next tribal council. So, I'm going to guess based on maybe last 3 people to finish in the challenge will lose their votes.
Right. So I mean, Jake could very well be gone next week, but I think against that field of Jake, Bruce, Julie, Kendra, Katurah,
Katurah, yeah.
Katurah, whom I love, but I think, I mean, that her story has been so uniformly focused on Bruce. I don't think it's likely that.
Right.
So
okay.
I'm going to say Jake.
So Jake, I'll take Julie as the sixth most likely person to win at this point. I feel like that of the Reba plus Emily people, I think that she's probably gotten the least. Just this is part position, part like edit. I just think she hasn't gotten that much in terms of what we've seen from the story.
Great line last night, though, about like, wait till you see your name.
She's fun. Yeah. yeah, she's had
it.
a couple of good lines throughout the season, but I would have Julie at 6. Okay. So, all right. So then it comes down to then the last 3. We have Kendra,
Bruce,
Katurah, Bruce. Okay.
I mean, I actually think, Kendra's like, she's such a kook, but like, that was sort of why I was out on Gabler. Katurah, very fun. I think Katurah is playing very well. I want to choose Katurah, but I think I'm going to pick Kendra anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I'll say Katurah then.
Yeah.
And Bruce goes to the audience.
Yeah. All right. You guys have your avatar. Let's talk about.
Before we do it, let's just okay. So Bruce, we picked him last. Do we think is there a path for Bruce?
I wonder, is there a world where Bruce makes it to the end? Let's say he's with let's say he's with Kendra and Katurah, okay? And he says, you always were targeting me. I came into this game with an enormous target. I've won immunities. I played my idol at the perfect moment, blindsiding Drew. I made fire against D and won, and I fought my way to the end. And even though you were always targeting me, here I am. I think he could win.
I don't know. I feel like that it would have to be something like fourth dimensionally of like the things that make Bruce win have not happened yet. And we can't necessarily envision them because based off of just the makeup of the jury so far, Caleb and now Kelly are 2 people that are probably, I would imagine, anybody but Bruce voters.
Right. I could see Kelly voting for Bruce. I mean, as much as she, did have some,
I'm not sure
with him, she also pulled, she pulled to keep him. They were allies. They were allies for a long time.
But she was pulling to, I don't know if you heard this in the exit interviews, that the reason why she wanted to keep him was that she said that Bruce was very worried about knowledge is power. And she was planning to Jesse him and then tell Bruce that, I heard the so-and-so had knowledge is power. Let me hold your idol and then vote Bruce out of the game.
This is what happens when you get too cute. You can't get too cute with these things. Like if the opportunity arises, take it, but don't plan some like magic. And look, I'm the victim of it. Like you start thinking about your amazing move for tribal councils out, and you lose sight of the game in front of you.
Yeah. Now, maybe it was not that unthinkable. I mean, maybe the more unthinkable thing was that Bruce was going to win individual immunity coming out of where like he was not even motivated to go and look for any of the Easter eggs in the jungle, that Bruce was going to come through and win individual immunity in that spot. But that according to Kelly, she said that Bruce was very concerned about knowledge is power and that potentially that maybe once that she got Bruce's idol from him, she might have even then played Bruce's idol on him and blindsided Austin.
Wow. Again, that's like the magic thinking of like, here's my move three tribal councils out and how perfect it's going to be. And, everyone at home is going to stand up and applaud. And, you gotta, that's when you lose sight of the game is when you start making those, magical big moves, Let's talk about the decision to vote out Kelly instead of Jake, because they could have voted out Jake. They were worried about the idol. They chose not to in a blind side.
Yeah, from the
There were some good reasons to vote out Jake instead of Kelly, which is that they don't show their hand, right? If they vote out Jake, they take out a Reba, a Bello. They take out a Bello, but they don't show the other Bellos what's going on. Kelly and Katurah and maybe even Bruce still think that there's, some kind of friendliness between the groups. Jake, I think still a good player. If you're Julie, Jake targeted you last episode. What do you think, Rob? Is there any, is Kelly definitely the right choice here?
I think that was the right choice for the people from Reba because Jake, while he did write down Julie's name, I don't think that Jake had the win equity that Kelly might have had, where From speaking with Kelly, I think that there was a few different factors. One, Austin has the amulet. So Drew and Austin specifically know if we take out Kelly, now Austin's amulet becomes a second hidden immunity idol.
Right. Which Austin, though, was sort of worried about as increasing his threat.
But only the Reba people know about it. Right. And so, I asked Kelly about this, that she did not tell anybody else about the power of the amulet. Jay Maya was the only other person that knew about it. So they are able to take out Kelly, who is a huge threat to win the game. They also turn Austin's amulet into a second hidden immunity idol for the Reba side. Also, that there's very little that could go wrong with this plan. That there was almost no chance that Kelly was going to play an idol on herself, whereas or Bruce was going to play his idol for her unless somebody like Emily revealed to somebody else. So I think that they were able to really keep it a secret, that there was very little that could go wrong with this plan. Whereas putting all the votes on Jake, that Bruce there was a non-zero chance Bruce was going to play his idol on Jake. Jake could have hit the shot in the dark. Everybody here just saw Caleb get his shot in the dark hit. So I think that's probably more than a 1 in 6 chance in their minds because they just saw it happen. And so I think that this was the safer plan to take out the bigger target, which also increased the amount of hardware that they had.
Yeah. And it was a very fun episode where I fully thought they were setting up, the Jake's farewell, right? It was like Kelly was barely there in the second half of the episode.
Yeah. Okay. Let me give you the Rorschach test of, Jake at Tribal Council.
Yeah.
Was everything he did theater or was
No, people saying that, you're wrong.
It's been said.
People say that about anyone who cries on Survivor. Oh, it was theater. People are like emotional. You're deprived of sleep. You're deprived of food. You're acting irrationally.
He did eat a whole chocolate cake.
Well, I mean, he's on a sugar low. You're acting. You've got all the paranoia of Tribal Council.
Well, all right. So I hear what you're saying, and I think I come down more. I do think that everything was. I think this was theater. Okay.
Really?
First off, he's an actor.
Yeah, I mean, there was like the My Idol, the Idol,
and that was intentional. That was
intentional.
That was clearly intentional.
Well, what does everything mean? Just like the stammering and
yes.
Well, what is that theater supposed to accomplish?
I think that and he's a lawyer, and every time I watch shows like Suits, like these lawyers, like they're always like going so I think
Survivor scripted, Rob.
First thing he's trying to do is establish, that he is in a weakened state. He's not all there. He doesn't have all his faculties. He's struggling to put it all together. And then the secret weapon is that he then stumbles over his words and says, an idol. And that I think that gives credibility to the fact like, oh, he's slipping. He let it slip that he does have an idol.
Right.
We better change things up now. Live tribal ensues.
Yeah. I mean, I can see it being a combination. I mean, the My Idol thing was obviously theater. I didn't think that the rest of it was, but I mean, he seems like, I don't know, I could be wrong. I mean, for this one, I'm willing to admit like some degree of doubt, where sometimes it's like someone, when like Gabby's crying and people are like, oh my gosh, what an actor, or War Dog loses a challenge. And it's like, wow, he's sandbagging.
Yeah.
But in this one, I'm willing to
How fun was Jake throughout this whole episode, though?
Great. Just so much banter. That's why I thought it was his farewell episode. He was just getting like all this like chatter and banter and, very fun. A lot of talk in the challenge.
Yeah. When Kelly ends up like the votes go against Kelly and it's like a totally like somber thing. And he's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
He's very, very fun. I'm glad that he's gotten a showcase here in these last couple of episodes, even though I'm very worried about him moving forward.
Now, going back to last week, would it have been the right move? I mean, obviously, would it have been the right move for Kelly to let Bruce go last week? Keep Sifu in the game, and let Bruce go.
Okay, so issue number one is that Bruce still has an idol. So I think it would have been tough to have there be that for Bruce not to feel 100% because I think he would have probably played his idol in most circumstances. So
and he has good reads, by the way. I don't know if we talked about it. Did we even talk about it? Like he as Bruce's reads have been pretty good.
His reads have been good because I think he's very paranoid, and then people are always voting for him. Yeah. So I think it's a little bit hard to say.
Yeah.
Like if somebody was coming for him all of a sudden and he sussed it out, like I think that would be a better barometer of how his reads are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it would have been tough to take out Bruce at that last vote.
But would it have been the right choice? If they could pull it off, get rid of Bruce, suddenly you've got, Sifu's still there. He seems to be a thorn in Reba's side in the way that,
okay,
Bruce
so Sifu is still there, but I think that Sifu is probably still loyal to I think that maybe if Caleb stayed, that Caleb, I think that Sifu really loved Caleb. Like I think that maybe Caleb could have maybe reeled Sifu in.
Yeah.
But I think that Sifu was probably still loyal to Reba. And so I don't know if it really ends up changing too much here. Or maybe Sifu ends up being but I guess Sifu is the target that you could have potentially gotten Reba to agree to vote out at this tribal council.
Right, exactly. They were so fixated on him in the same way that Bella was on Bruce.
Yeah, so maybe Kelly ultimately, if she's able to get rid of Bruce at that past tribal council, maybe that could have been like an acceptable person for the Reba people to, put the votes on. So, or at least split the votes between, I guess, I don't know, we don't know who would have been lost their vote at tribal council and who would have won immunity. I guess it's conceivable that Julie would have won immunity if she was the second to finish, and then we don't know who would have lost their vote at the auction.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Women's Alliance, because there's a lot made this episode about a Women's Alliance. It was in the preview, and then it lasted about as long as the preview did. There was no real substance there, but it did set up this moment of Emily kind of deciding, hey, I'm with those people. We've created trust. And Emily and Drew have a big moment where they kind of like reaffirm their alliance love for each other.
Yeah.
Did you think that there was any, was this the right choice for Emily?
Yeah, I do think it was the right choice for Emily. I think it was on the patron Q&A that we talked it through of like, who does it make sense for there to be a women's alliance and who doesn't it make sense for? And that it was sort of like an inverted pyramid where that a women's alliance made the most sense for the three women from Bello.
Yeah.
Made like, it was probably like about equal for Dee and for Julie. And it was the worst for Emily, who was probably like sixth on that, where she, with the Reba people, is at worst fifth and maybe has like an outside shot to be able to be like top three with Drew and Austin.
Right.
So,
which seems like it really could happen, right? I mean, to be the middle of those two pairs, it seems like a great spot to be in, especially because, they could theoretically split votes. Or to have two people that we've talked about this in the past too, to have two people there who are sort of making the same argument, it gives you an opportunity to stand apart.
Yeah, absolutely. So we thought coming into this that the Women's Alliance made the least sense for Emily. In talking with Kelly, though, that Kelly did not really feel like, the Women's Alliance was a real thing. I think that was something that was presented in the episode as like, okay, that is a viable thing that's going to happen, when she had said that in the reality of it, it was like, hey, this would be cool if we could do this, but it wasn't something that was like tangible, like moving forward, that the six women were going to be working together to vote out the men.
Yeah, I mean, there just reaches a point in the game where it really is hard to ally with someone. I remember like talking to Wentworth, like, 2 weeks into the game, which, and being like, should we pair up, like, or we don't really have any trust. You kind of like, there's like, yeah, we really don't have anything reason to do that. We it seems nice, but there's, we don't really know each other that well. I mean, there's just like, there'd be things ossify. It's rare to make a really new alliance this late in the game.
Stephen, we haven't talked about the auction, and I would love to get your take. I saw your tweet that you love the auction.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to have the auction back. So Survivor, they call it Auction 2.0.
Yeah.
And they made a lot of tweaks to it. Was it working for you?
Loved it. I thought it was great. I thought they had like a little bit of strategy, right? With like, you can't have too much money, which like put some pressure on it. I do think it's going to like, they may have to watch out for that because I think the contestants like game it so fast that like suddenly everyone is just like whoever has the most money is immediately spending it all on whatever the next food item is, and that I do think has a risk in later seasons for like decreasing fun. But it was so fun. I mean, we got like what's fun about the auction is the goofiness and like oh gross or like oh my god I get to taste this this fry and Emily's little dance and Austin eating the fish eyes anyway, and just like it's these like little fun. These people are living outside in the jungle and like they hate each other, they love each other, they're desperate to survive. And it makes it real. Like these are real people. They're having an experience and it's not all about strategy and that. What did you think of the race through the jungle for the money?
I thought it was good. I think that Adam had said last night that they kind of got lucky that Bruce, not really wanting to participate, like gave it a story. I thought it was better than last season of like going to look for the keys to the lock. And so I thought that it was like, you were kind of excited that the auction was back. So I think that helped it, but I don't think they need to necessarily do that again. Maybe they can have some other way that they could potentially be getting the money.
I mean, and in some ways, it's actually better if all the contestants have the same amount of money, especially with this like need to get rid of your money. Like there's a more, and maybe there's more pressure in that.
Yeah, I think that this was probably more of a byproduct of the 90 minutes of like, okay, well, we need to be able to like fill another like piece of this for getting set up for the auction. But one of the things that Adam talked about last night on the podcast, and then also I saw Shannon Gus talking about this on Twitter, was that they've incentivized the players. Okay, well, you can't ever be having the most money, but that they've taken the reasons to hold your money in that there is an advantage out of the auction. That do you feel like that what they needed to do is now put an advantage back into the auction, because then you are incentivized. There is a risk reward of, it's not like, oh, but I might not get a hamburger, I could potentially lose my vote. Maybe you want to have something that's in there that is worth losing your vote for.
That's interesting. I mean, that's sort of what I was saying with respect to the, like, future seasons. It's just going to be like boom, boom, boom. People are going to be like pushing all their money in right away. But that's a great next development of that, which is that, you want something in there to incentivize people keeping it. That's a very, I don't know. I like that there was no strategy to it, or less
I guess my question is, did it need to have the that lose your vote?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you're right. Do you want to get rid of, instead of adding the advantage, would you lose your vote? I kind of think it does create some pressure, which was fun. Like, because then there's like this sort of hot potato aspect to it. And it was funny that Bruce, I mean, obviously the way it worked out was very funny, where Bruce, who came in with the least amount of money, ended up not being able to spend it and therefore losing his vote. I see that, like, suddenly, like, because it becomes less fun when it's people just pushing it all in for whatever the next item is and not kind of being strategic. Like the strategy of the auction is, how do I maximize my food intake, for money? So maybe,
well, I could tell you just from the perspective of like somebody like who sat there in the auction. I think that you're trying to like ride the line of like, okay, that's 240. Like if I go to 300 here, I'm probably not going to be able to get anything else. So I think you are trying to weigh a little bit of like, hey, I want to eat the most possible stuff here, and I only have so much money. So it's like, is that a good value? How many more things does Jeff have? Like, there is strategy to it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that maybe from Jeff's perspective, like the auction didn't have enough stakes, STAKES in it. And so like that needs more juice for him. But I can tell you, like, as a person who's there, like the auction is plenty exciting.
All right. And it's more fun, I think, to watch the contestants making those like, oh, do I switch? Like that to me is the fun of the auction. It wasn't. And I do think the auction kind of got less fun when the contestants got more frantic about, oh no, I've got to get all my money in so that I'm not the one holding the hot potato. I think suddenly it became like less about those fun choices of like, oh gosh, is a milkshake worth $400? Like that's the fun of the auction. I think you may be right. Just go back to the original auction, because that was the joy of it.
Yeah, and you could just not have the advantages.
No advantage.
And it's that We loved it. My kids were loving it. That they were super excited to see what the eyes was great. It was just like really, really fun. I think that maybe we overcomplicated it just like a little bit. To bring it back. It's just as you said, like we can have like a thing that's just fun.
Yeah. And that's what's and again, like that's the joy is like, watching the contestants kind of like, piece it together.
Yeah, because the players like ran out of money. Like I think that there was no way we were getting to 15 items. Like what was going to happen where, everybody is like to have it go up to 15.
Right.
We were at 11 and Bruce had $80 and it's like, okay, well, well, the thing said 14, but would we have stopped
I guess that's it.
What would happen if everybody spent all the money?
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess he would have ended it.
Yeah. Okay. But yes, super fun. Do you have any fun auction stories from Token Sheens?
Let's see. I mean, obviously that Taj moment was great. I mean, it was very funny when everyone was sort of like giving Taj all of their money so she could bid on this thing with Eddie, and like everyone's like emptying their wallets. Like, you don't have to give her any money, just don't bid against her. You don't have to like empty your wallet for her. Just don't bid it up and then she can get it for $20.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that fun? I shared the thing already about Brendan and Tyson eating peanut butter. That to me was What about you? Yeah. We talked a little bit about last week.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about last week. Yeah, Stephen, sometimes I go on Instagram and all the survivors are like sharing like their clips of them like doing the challenge or doing the auction. Like, does survivors send those clips to people?
I know that's what I was. Someone sent me the clip of it, like of me at the auction, so I like retweeted that. But where do people get the clips?
I don't know. Are people just like sitting there like oh, hey, it's auction week. Let me go on Paramount Plus and download the episode and it's almost like it's like a coordinated effort, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. I would think you've got the technological infrastructure, to get some clips.
Yeah, sure. Like I have a staff of people that could be working on it if we needed that. Nobody said, Rob, here's your auction, best auction clips. But
maybe focus less on the podcast and more on the clips of you from Amazon.
Right. Well, we should be doing this when they have a challenge that comes up that I did. So I just like it's like, oh my God, how did everybody know to do this today?
Yeah. It is fun though. It is fun to see. And it's like the auction, especially. I mean, people were so ecstatic about the auction. I was like, come on, it's not that big a deal. Like, it's like a TV segment, but actually it was very enjoyable to watch. So, and it was fun to see people's clips from the past and reminisce about those.
Okay. Let's take some questions here with Stephen. If you're watching us live, you can go ahead and post your questions as well in the chat. How about the, question from Vafex, wasn't there a very real possibility of nobody having to lose their vote? If the auction had gotten 2 more objects, nobody would have had any more money left. What do you think they would have done, Stephen?
I think I maybe they would have gone with it. Okay, nobody loses their vote.
Yeah. Can't imagine that they would like that.
No, but and they probably wouldn't have shown it. I mean, that happens sometimes, right? Like they put stuff in play that doesn't pay off, and so we just never see it. Like we would have never seen Jeff say that. We're like, why is everyone bidding so much for such crappy items?
This is a great question from Aaron Flea Sperling. Would Stephen Fishbach eat the giant fish eyeball?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean,
I was very impressed with you in Second Chances.
Yeah.
You ate what did you eat in the gross
snout
that it's called the regional delicacies challenge.
I would. There was like a pig snout, but then there was like balut left over, and I think like Jeremy. I don't know if it made the air, but like Jeremy went back and like
that was on the show. Yeah.
Oh, we did make air. And like I would not have done that. Like that's too disgusting. So, but like I'll take down the pig snout if it's offered to me, but I'm not going to go back for pig snout.
Yeah, and the giant fish eye.
No, that's disgusting. It was such a great moment. What on earth, those fish eyes? What fish were those from? How come they didn't tell us what fish those were from?
What do you think of this twist? This was something we were talking about after the show on Tuesday night. What do you think? Like, because they kind of brought it out as like, oh, what is that? Is that like some kind of like a dessert? No, Jeff said it's a fish eye. But what if it really was cake?
It did look like it might be cake, and I think she was kind of like, what? That was sort of what her response was.
Could Survivor do this? It's like, okay, is this something gross or is it cake? Okay, pick which one and you get to take it.
Yeah,
That's dangerous fun.
Yeah, that is dangerous.
Yeah,
I like
was
that
talking about
Kelly, I'm sorry, that Emily knew it was a margarita just based on the way Jeff was holding the tray. That was something. That's part of her winner's
Yeah, I
edit.
guess she must have been like a server at
Yeah.
some point of like, okay, the way he's carrying that, there's a liquid in there.
There's no way it's beer. That's margarita balance.
Yeah. But I was watching this with my kids, and I was talking about this idea of that we were saying like, is it cake or is it snake?
Oh, cake or snake. That's a fun challenge.
Okay.
And it's a live snake, so it bites you.
Yeah, that'd
That's
be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
A monster.
Okay. How about, Aaron Paulson wants to know, with Caleb and Kelly going back to back, it seems season 45 is continuing the 41-44 trend of the early merge being the big threat graveyard. So my question is, should we be reassessing what makes for a good Survivor player? Does our winner pick process need tweaking, or will the 46ers buck the trend?
I do. I mean, I think we've talked about this. You don't want to be on anybody's radar, until basically the end game, right? Like as soon anybody who is seen as a threat in the early, even to mid merge, is going to be voted out. And that's sort of why, I mean, I think that, Jake has some winner equity as someone who might be seen as a lame duck, without Kelly there. Jake was sort of the part of that core group of Jake, Bruce, Kelly. Kendra didn't even seem to be that much part of that core. Maybe she was. And Couture certainly was not. So that's I think like Jake could seem kind of like, maybe like not no one to worry about while we take out the bigger threats. But yes, I do think like in terms of, I mean, Jam Jam was kind of the odd one out, and he benefited from the Three Stooges being such a small group in among those. But he was more of an active.
Jam Jam's the outlier of being the only person who really was like kind of like on the radar in the post merge, and then Jam like worked very hard to like make good relationships with both sides, and that people weren't worried about him then after a little bit. But I think he's the only exception of the person who really has his name out there and then was able to potentially get back out of the sights of everybody.
Yeah, and did such a good job, ping ponging between those two groups. And I mean, it'll be interesting if we see the Rebas kind of able to keep that group cohesiveness. Like that would be, I mean, really somewhat unique. Did the Blue Tribe in 41? Did they kind of keep it together a little bit?
No. Okay. Yeah, I mean, they basically had splintered where there was Danny and Deshaun, and then there was Erica and Heather, and they were never really a cohesive group. Yeah. Okay, then as far as like these big threats go, I kind of feel like that you can't ever draft somebody who looks like an obvious threat to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, but you wouldn't have even said before last week that Kelly. I mean, I guess like people, were clocking that Kelly was, in all the conversations, and Caleb knew that. But you would never have. I mean, she doesn't seem like the person you would point to in this group and say that's the biggest threat on the beach.
Yeah, but we've heard it from different players in the season of like, oh, Kelly's at the center of everything. Caleb called her the queen bee. We saw from the early days of Bello that she was like the one person who was sort of like the nucleus of that tribe. So I think that it was like very quickly recognized that she was, a key person to go after.
Yeah. That's interesting. But been a very subtle player, which I like. She wasn't like over the top in the way she exerted influence.
Yeah, I mean, she is certainly a person who has like because we saw her last week win challenges. She was super strategic, very social. So she was like a clear triple threat, and maybe she didn't like pop like physically where it was like, okay, oh, this is a very threatening person. But anybody that knows the show knows that she's going to be like a very serious threat to win the game.
Yeah.
She's like such a balanced player that she's going to be like a big threat in almost any scenario that she's in.
What a story it would be if Emily won, from the person who was
the big brother.
Whoa.
Do we get hacked?
I'm not going to participate in this. Yeah.
I'll switch it back for you.
Yeah. Rob, how would you say your game changed? I'm going to say for the better when.
Yes, good. You're almost there.
Yeah. No, you switched the background. I had to stop. I'm back. I'm back in reality here.
Yeah. Give me your perspective on all of that. Like, what does that mean to you when you hear, how does your game change? I would say for the
I
better.
had to add. I mean, I saw that you really were fixated on it
I
on
loved
social
it.
media. Yeah. So I did need to get like I needed to. I mean, it was funny. Like the clip was funny, but it didn't have, it didn't mean anything. It had no like significance. So I did ask for some people's perspectives, and I think Cochran he gave me a good summation of it, or like, and maybe it was Brian Corden, or it was like, if Coach gave a speech at the Tocantins final council about how like he was the mastermind, and you guys were something like that. Would that sort of
I
no,
would not say that was a great, with all due respect to
not
Brian
good.
Corden.
No,
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't Brian who said that, but just the
Mhm.
idea that the delusionalness of it. I mean, obviously, and the delusionalness, the delusion of her just generally. I mean, again, like doesn't resonate for me, but I kind of understand it intellectually, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be like, I'm trying to think if to give you like the perspective on it, like somebody who like wasn't like the biggest part of the thing, like went to like the final tribal council and was like, hey, like what about like when you were in the alliance with me, like
Yeah, right.
and it'd be like, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of like maybe somebody in the chat has a better analogy.
Yeah.
All right. How about if Kelly would have taken the shot at Bruce last week when Kendra wanted to take him out? How do you think that she would have fared moving forward? I mean, we kind of covered that.
Better though.
Earlier.
I mean, right? Like, I think not having that person there who's drawing, because, and again, like, well, obviously knowing that Bruce was immune this week, but I think like having Bruce there to absorb the bullets this week was technically a very good position to be in. Just Bruce winning the challenge was the wrinkle. You can't count on that. You can't plan for that.
Yeah. How do you feel about Austin moving forward with two idols?
Yeah, I mean, at some point,
two idols in the majority alliance. Like,
right.
What could go wrong, Stephen?
Right. Yeah, exactly. James is asking that same question.
Well, I made the comparison last night of like big, strong guy, two idols, like loves to eat, unusual foods at the auction.
Yeah, it's very funny. Although big, strong guy, I mean, that's where you see the change in, Survivor 15 to Survivor 44. Like James was a huge, I mean, but Austin not so huge, but on this season, a big, strong guy.
Mm-hmm.
And a real, deflationary effect of the Survivor huge.
That I don't really see a huge difference. You feel like that James is I mean, James isn't like super tall or anything.
He's not tall, but he was like, oh my God, he's like jacked. Mm-hmm. You think James and Austin are like equivalently strong?
I think it's pretty close. Yeah.
Wow. Huh. Okay.
I mean, put out the Twitter poll.
We're gonna need them to fight.
they should fight. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like James, I think has like graveyard strength though.
Mm-hmm. Like he can summon the dead.
I don't think he's like the Undertaker, but I just think that like I don't know, like it's like practical like shovel strength.
Right. Well, right, but that's part of strength. Practical shovel strength. I wasn't saying like strength except for practical shovel strength.
Yeah, Sam is saying have them have a hall brawl on Challenge USA season 3.
That's exactly my point. I mean, who you're picking in that competition.
Mm-hmm.
You're not picking Austin.
Mm-hmm. All
right.
I mean,
unless you can like go over.
People are with you, I guess. Yeah. All right. There you go. What else about this episode from last night?
Very fun, very well edited. Some great, just sort of like side by sides of like, I mean, what are the men talking about? They're probably worried about us. Then cut to them talking about tacos on the beach. I mean, just a lot of like very fun, like editing side by sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fun episode. Great. I'm loving it. So much fun. This is the best season since 37.
Best season since 37.
And that was 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, if not longer, was it? What was I believe that was what? Was that 2018, 2017?
2018.
Okay. There you go.
5 years ago.
All right. Trying to see if we have any other questions that are stuff that we haven't talked about. Connor said, what do you think about the flashback to auctions from previous seasons that they showed right after the commercial?
Just want myself in them. I enjoy them. I just want, to be part of the clip reel.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like there to be one clip of me that exists in HD.
Exactly. What's your ideal auction item, Rob? What are you going for in the auction?
So if I was gonna rank like the all-time auctions item, I feel like the burger and fries. Like I feel like that usually that has a soft drink. I feel like that has everything.
Yeah.
I thought that Drew was kind of like a party pooper of like he got the dish of candy. He's like, yeah, well, I was really hoping for something with like, some carbs.
I mean, candy you do not want. I'm with him on that actually. Like candy's like not that good. Like you're gonna have a sugar high and you're gonna feel like shitty later. Like you're not getting. I mean, you're getting calories technically,
Yeah.
but it's not.
I think
it's not
what I think what he meant to say is maybe something with like some protein.
Well, you want carbs too, though. I think carbs.
Ideally both, but yeah. I mean, candy is nothing but carbs.
Well, right, but it's like sure. I think you meant
fat.
like more like starchy carbs,
Yeah,
like fries.
yeah. But I think a burger and fries, I think, is probably like what you want to do. Like the pizza is whatever.
Yeah.
But there's something about the fries that I feel like that the grease. Like there's something you really do like crave that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fat's just like the grease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Might do a number on you after, but your body is really missing that.
Yeah.
I think that's why peanut butter is so popular. I think you just like crave like these like ultra rich fatty foods.
Yeah.
All right, Stephen, what else is going on with you?
Nothing much. Nothing very much. How about yourself?
Just podcasting away. I had a busy week. I was up in New York on Tuesday night. I really was. And it's kind of an exhausting week. That I think people think that I was like doing like a fake out, but I really was not feeling well on Monday, and so I really had to rally to make it to New York on Tuesday. But then it was like 24 hours in New York. It was a really nice thing that they put together. I think that there'll probably be more clips out on social media because they like did like extensive filming of the whole thing.
It did seem really nice. Like, what was the occasion?
I don't know. I think that they were really trying to like get the word out on social that the auction was back. So yeah, it was an interesting event. About like 75 people. They showed the episode too, and then we had like a quick then. I hosted a Q&A with Kelly. They had told me like, hey, the person who gets voted out is going to be here. And then we want you to ask them questions after the episode.
Oh, that's so cool. What a fun thing to do. And how
it was fun,
Kelly,
but I was really, I've never had to do that before where I
Jeff
go
watching
from,
you.
Well, Jeff had gone on, he was on Fallon that night, so he wasn't there. And so he was just there for the intro. But then we had to like talk about the episode like right after it aired with the person like who was getting voted out. And I was like, really? I was okay, it's either Jake or Kelly. And I had like, I'm like coming up with questions in my head for Jake and then also for Kelly.
Wow. What were the questions for Jake that you didn't ask? Sort of like,
I think I probably would have just talk through with him, the stuff from last week. And then, I mean, those they're kind of gone now, but I think I would have had to come up with something on the fly.
Yeah.
But very, very fun. All right. So Stephen and I will be back together. And so for next week, we're going to have something special for you. It's the holidays. Yeah. We're getting together on Wednesday next week.
Oh, yeah.
So it's Thanksgiving, the night before Thanksgiving, we'll have a Wednesday Know-It-Alls, just like the old days, talking about episode 9 of Survivor 45 coming up. Okay.
Do you think that Bello just got on? I mean, Bello's got a kookier tribe than Reba, right? Like just like raw kookiness.
Yeah, I mean, well, they had maybe the most kooky person out of the whole season on their tribe in Sifu.
Right. No, Reba did. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, did Bello have the kookiest tribe? I mean, I feel like that.
Well, no. Lulu obviously.
Sure. I mean, this is just maybe a wacky season of. I mean, if you were gonna say like who's kooky on Bello, I mean, you have Kelly, who's sort of like the sitcom nucleus character.
Right.
She's like the person who's like the normal one.
Right.
Kendra's
kooky, very kooky.
Yeah, Kendra is like sort of like she's like the romantic comedy like best friend of our protagonist.
Yeah.
And then Kendra I feel like has kind of been boxed in. Like we don't know how she would have been had Bruce not been there.
Right.
Jake wasn't wacky until recently.
Right. We've seen the whack.
Brando wasn't too wacky.
No.
And
not
then
wacky at all.
yeah, and then you had Bruce. Maybe Bruce just broke the whole group. Like if it wasn't for Bruce, like this might have been like a pretty normal tribe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, if Bruce got switched with somebody else, like maybe they would have been able to like better navigate. And I do think that maybe like in the beginning, like there was like a little bit of like a deference to Bruce of like, hey, he's a returning player. That he's like the quote unquote celebrity of that he's been brought back. So
he knew Kane.
He knew Kane. He knows what to do a little bit out here, and so maybe that they were sort of like deferring to him. Maybe where if he was a first time player, maybe he wouldn't have, they wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know, but all right, Stephen. Great job by you here today.
Oh, thank you. You too, Rob.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We've got a lot more coming up here this very big week. Carolyn, she's a recent moderator here on the YouTube channel. She's going to be joining me tomorrow afternoon. So we'll check in with Carolyn. We'll talk about Survivor or whatever she wants to talk about. Oh, the Fishy Award, Stephen.
I think you got to give it to Drew in this case. I mean, he was really the one who put that way. We saw. I mean, like, when at Tribal Council, Kelly first turns to Austin and says, "Was this you?" And he nods. But that they could have meant collectively the Rebus. But from the story perspective, Drew is really the one who put together this plan to take out Kelly. I do think it was a good plan. I was very sad about it, obviously. But got to give it to Drew.
Yeah. All right. Can't quibble with that. Then we'll have the Survivor Feedback Show coming up on Monday. Franny is going to join me for the Survivor Feedback Show. That'll be a lot of fun. And then we'll do a Survivor Q&A with the patrons coming up 7 p.m. on Friday. Brian Cohen is going to be there with me for that one. Not to mention, we're also going to have a special bonus edition of The Slop postseason edition coming up tonight. Think about 8:15, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time for that. So thank you, Stephen. Be sure to follow Stephen. He's got great tweets about Survivor and everything else, like the villainous repairman.
Yeah, it's a great one. It's a classic. And that's going to go viral. Just needs to get that. It needs some time.
Yeah, you're not alone. I think a lot of people relate with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Go to at Stephen Fishbach on X to see what he's up to. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.